intro.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Ben.
I'm Kathy. 안녕하세요.
And what are we talking about today?
We are talking about you. How many languages do you have?
Okay, perfect. All right, sure. So, do you have any questions for me?
네. So now, how many languages do you have?
I can speak English, French, Spanish, German, and Korean.
You have Polish too, right?
Yeah, I used to speak Polish, some Polish, but I kind of forgot it because I never use it anymore. You have to practice language if you want to keep it up. And now my Korean is becoming better than my Spanish because I never practice Spanish anymore.
진짜?
Yeah.
Can you show me 안녕하세요 everything?
In Spanish?
Every language.
In English, hello. En français, in French, bonjour. In Spanish, hola.
Wow.
In Polish, dzień dobry. In Italian, buongiorno. In Japanese, konnichiwa. In Korean, 안녕하세요. In German, hallo or guten Tag. Or in Austria, they say grüß Gott. And then in Switzerland, they say grüezi. Grüezi. And you want to say to many people, they say grüezi miteinander. In Switzerland, they say this. Yes?
와, 신기하다. 여기 신기한 사람이에요. 우리 물어보고 싶어서. 그런데, but how you keep this language? I mean, how can you contain all the vocabulary things?
Well, that's a hard question because I'm not very good at that. I learn things quickly and then forget it quickly and then learn things quickly and forget it quickly. I definitely noticed that my Spanish is not very good anymore because I don't practice it, I never use it. So sometimes I try to listen to music in Spanish and like I'll read some texts or watch a few YouTube videos in Spanish, which is helpful. But I don't do this as much because I spend most of my time now studying Korean and yeah. Like for example, now I started reading a book in French. Jules Verne, 20 milieux sur les mers. This is 20,000 leagues under the sea, Jules Verne. And I'm reading it in French because I noticed that I was sending messages and writing emails and like my spelling was strange. I wasn't sure about the spelling. So like, okay, that's when I know that I have to practice again. So I started reading a book in French because that would remind me how to do this properly.
그렇구나.
Yeah.
You need to practice even your mother tongue.
Yeah, of course, of course.
어떻게, how did you get those 6 languages? I mean, like, how did you face those languages you had to learn? Like, first of all, you have English and French mother tongue, and why did you study German? And was it Polish and Spanish? Why did you learn that? I understand you are here and you learn Korean, but why the other languages did you get?
Well, first of all, I got very lucky by learning English and French. So I knew both languages from being a baby, basically. So I learned them as my mom speaks English and my dad speaks French. I learned Spanish because my mom co-founded an organization in Guatemala, which is building homes in Guatemala and basically connecting Canadians with people in Guatemala. Canadians wanting to learn Spanish and help and contribute somewhere, and people in Guatemala who are experiencing difficult situations, mostly oppression and poverty. And so I went to Guatemala for 2 weeks and I learned Spanish because I was very far in a remote community where nobody spoke English, and we were living with these families, Guatemalan people who didn't speak English, and so I had to speak Spanish, and even though I didn't know anything, I tried and I practiced and I made mistakes and I learned and I took notes and I kept trying, and then I went there for 2 weeks, and then the next year I went for 2 weeks again, and I learned Spanish quite well doing that, and then later on when I went on exchange in Austria, which is where I learned German, I also improved my Spanish because there's a lot of
Spanish people there.
Yeah, Spanish-speaking exchange students.
Oh yes, 맞아요.
So a lot of the Spanish-speaking exchange students, the Mexicans, the Venezuelans, the Chileans, they all hung out with each other.
맞아.
speaking Spanish to each other. And they didn't want to speak English, and they didn't want to speak German. They just wanted to speak Spanish. They didn't learn these other languages so well, which meant that I got free practice by translating from the Spanish speakers to the French speakers to the German speakers to the English speakers.
Wow.
So I did a lot of practice doing that.
Oh, fun.
German I learned first in Switzerland on a short exchange, then in Austria on a year exchange. I lived in Poland for 2 years, so I learned a little bit of Polish. Although I was going to an English international school, so that meant that I didn't practice Polish very much, so I didn't learn that much. But I learned a little bit.
You can communicate with them even now. You don't.
Yeah. Well, my Polish is pretty bad nowadays because I never practiced it. And like I noticed a few months ago, I met a person from Poland, and I was like, oh, cool. And I speak to this person in Polish, and like as I'm speaking to them, it's all Korean that's coming out.
Oh.
And it was very strange. And kind of that's when I realized that this like new language part of my brain, of Korean and English, was like overlapping, and like Korean was pushing Polish out.
진짜? 아,
Yeah.
do you think we have the brain like contain the limitation of the language?
Not a limitation, but I think that if you're learning, like if you're in the process of learning a language, and like you have two languages that are like a similar level, it seems to me, just from my experience, that if the two languages are similar level, if you're using them both all the time, then that can work well.
Yeah.
Months after that, I went to Europe, and I went to Poland for a week. So I was in Poland for maybe 5 days, and in the 5 days, when I first got there, my Polish was just awful, so bad. But after 4 or 5 days being there and like speaking it all the time, or like hearing it all the time, like it just went up really quickly. Because I was actually using it, hearing it, and remembering and reading it all the time. So my skills went up really, really fast. Because I was remembering the things that I never used.
I see that. 그렇구나. 이게 끌어올리는구나.
Yeah.
You're pulling it up quick.
Yeah, because it's somewhere in my brain.
Wow, interesting. It's curious if they have some other area in the other side, like a lot of vocabulary inside, and then when it's happened, the circumstance, it comes up or not, I was wondering about it.
In most situations, I'm able to distinguish between between different languages. Like, of course, sometimes I make funny mistakes, but like, I guess one thing that made it easier for me as well is that I always grew up speaking 2 languages, and in the region of Canada that I'm from, Eastern Canada, like Montreal, Ottawa region, people speak English and French, and like French, English, and in the same conversation it would be like switching English, French, English, French, English, French, English, French. It's great actually. You use like French grammar and then all English words. Then the next sentence is English grammar and like French words, and then like French, English, French, English, French, English, French, English, switching. Just because it's more convenient, or it's more natural to say things in one way compared to any other language.
맞아. I get you, because if you have 2 languages, you have more like double vocabulary to express.
Yeah.
If you have 3 and more, like do you feel like you have more? How can I explain it? 이거 좀 more fruitful expression. Do you feel you have?
Definitely. Like the more languages you know, the easier it is to learn new languages, because you see connections between the 2 different ones. Like right now I'm learning Korean, and the more I learn Korean, and now I'm learning Chinese characters as well, and the more I'm learning Chinese characters, the easier it is to learn Japanese. Like I'm noticing that a lot of words are similar.
Yes. True,
And like,
true.
even if the words are not pronounced similar, this character is the same.
맞아.
So like, I know kind of the meaning of this. Or like, I can read signs in Chinese, a few things, because I know the character. I don't know how to pronounce this. But for example,
Why do you learn Japanese now?
because I'm going to go on a trip to Japan, 2 trips to Japan, and I want to have experiences and meet people and not be lost.
근데 이거는 I guess this is your character. I go there. I went there like 10 times, more than 10 times. I don't know. Just read 히라가나 only.
Sure.
근데 learning for the trip is not like not for every.
이렇게 새로운 언어를 배우면 배울수록 더 쉬워.
그래?
진짜. 왜냐면 그냥 언어가 뭐 다르지만 그래도 좀 인간의 생각이 좀 비슷하니까 좀 오케이 연결이 있어서
그러면은 이렇게 그거 생각에 따라서 말하는 스타일이 다르잖아.
맞아.
그러면은 말하는 스타일을 캐치하고 생각을 캐치하면 언어 배우기가 쉬워져?
맞아. 문법 좀 예를 들면 그냥 영어랑 독일어 문법이 완전 다르지만 그래도 좀 단어가 비슷할 수도 있어. 그리고 또 뭐지? 뭐 그냥 새로운 단어 아니면 문법 그냥 배우면서 좀 어떻게 설명하는지 모르는데 그냥
커넥션들이 있어.
맞아. 그냥 설명할 수 없는 연결이 그냥
근데 그거는 퍼스널 피규어 아웃인 것 같아 진짜.
맞아.
이렇게 커넥션 이거랑 이거 배우는 게 이렇게 하면 되겠네라는
맞아.
요령하는 건 퍼스널인 것 같아.
맞아.
근데 나는 퍼스널이 그게 아니고 완전.
그렇게 하지 마.
네, 알았습니다. 파이팅. 다른 거 배우고 있어요. 네, 고마워. 이거 part 2 비디오.
Thank you very much.
예, 다음에 뵙고 보죠.
네.